Hey guys, welcome back into another edition of Rath's Learning Curve. We're going to hit you here with the second edition or the second part of the Cream series for NFL cash games and our strategies, number 6 through 10. Hit you off with number 6, spread your risk. What we mean by that is similar to what we talked about in baseball. You're not going to load up on one particular team in your cash games because if things don't go according to plan, you're going to be left holding the bag and not the winning side, the losing side. So, my rule of thumb is try to get only one player per team. The exception in this rule is you can go with your kicker and your defense. I feel okay with that, especially in cash games. I'm fine with that. But one player per team and 2 players per game. It's just something that, not something that you want to do, with 2 per game and one per team. Now, the thing about that is I don't have a problem going wide receiver on one side, wide receiver on the other. You figure that if one team's throwing the ball and gets ahead, the other team's going to have to throw the ball as well. Don't do things like, wide receiver and running back, things like that. You're just going to mess things up. We'll talk about that later. Number 7, talked about spread your risk. Now we're going to talk about spread your wealth. And what we mean by that is spread your wealth at the wide receiver position, if at all possible. Optimal strategy number 1 here is try to get all 3 wide receivers that are usually within $500 or $1,000, and then hopefully one of those wide receivers breaks out and 2 of them hit the floor. But that's not always the case. So optimal strategy number 1 is spread your wealth. Optimal strategy number 2 is what we kind of referred to earlier. Look for PPR guys. Look for guys who get the ball. Don't look for guys like Martavius Bryant who get 80-yard touchdowns. That's just not going to be consistent. You want to go for the guys who routinely get the ball, get a lot of targets. Maybe it's on a poor offense. Maybe it's a guy like Sammy Watkins who it's just going to get a lot of targets because he's clearly the number 1 guy. He doesn't have a lot of upside, but he does have a solid floor. So that's how we're attacking the wide receiver position. Number 8 is kickers. Now, everybody says, who cares about kicker? Well, here's the thing. You play on FanDuel, you better care about kicker. And my strategy with kicker is twofold in cash games. 1, I'm going to pay up for Gostkowski or Hushka or somebody like that who I know is on a team where the team's going to win. They're always going to be looking to get scoring opportunities, kick field goals where they can, and just continue to pile on the points. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is a situation like we had last year where Alex Henry gets cut by the Eagles. Cody Parkey comes in, and he is minimum salary for one of the best offenses in football. So if we have a situation like that, let's keep an eye on that Steelers kicker situation because that could represent a buying opportunity early on in our cash games. But again, I'm okay paying up at kicker. For a guy at home in a premium matchup where the team is heavily favored. There's some other scenarios where kicker is also pretty good. If it's a high-scoring game and it's a low total, when it's a low spread, and we think the game is going to go back and forth, and we think that the field goals are going to come into play, that's another opportunity as well. But that one is a little bit tougher to predict. So again, Gostkowski, Hushka, or the cheap guy in a potent offense. Number 9. Flex play and flex play in cash games, and I'm going to go running back because I want the guy who's going to get me 15 to 20 touches a game. I don't want to rely on the guy that's only going to get 8 to 9 targets a game. Even though there's upside with a wide receiver, I want the floor. I want the running back. Now, chances are I'm not going to be able to get a stud running back who's going to get a huge volume. So I'm looking at a guy who's maybe taking over for an injury. Maybe it's coming into a situation where the coach has made a coaching change, or we get incredible value early on in the season on a guy who came on at the end. Maybe it's a Jonathan Stewart. Maybe it's a Chris Ivory, just something where the situation has changed. And we think early on it represents a buying opportunity, and we can roll with a guy like that in our flex spot. Number 10, avoid negative correlation. This happens a lot more than what you would think, and it sounds crazy, but there are actually people that build lineups, and they'll take Russell Wilson against the Steelers, and then they'll turn around and take the Steelers defense because it's cheap and it's the only defense they can fit in, and they don't think about it. Don't take a defense opposing any of the players that you've already taken. So that defense has to be completely independent of any of the players that you've picked. So if you've taken, Russell Wilson and Jamal Charles and Le'Veon Bell, just don't take a defense going against any of your guys. Just don't do it, You'd be amazed how often it happens. So again, avoid negative correlation. That's going to wrap it up for our tips 6 through 10, cash game rules, NFL, DFS. Stay with us as we're going to hit the tournaments, or what people affectionately known as GPPs, and we're going to run down rules 1 through 10 in the next Rath Learning Curve series. Thanks again, guys.